hear ye. Welcome to the Dukes of Gaming podcast.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Like he said, welcome to the Dukes of Gaming podcast. This is your host, the Duke of Procrastination, Thomas. It's good to be back after a rough week with a stomach ache. I'm glad Ben held it down last week with the hosting. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for listening live if you're here, or listening 2 to 3 months from now if you're listening to it later. Joining me is my fellow Dukes of Gaming. First and foremost, we have the Duke of Design. How are you doing, Ben, this week?
Very good. I crushed a Moscow Mule before we started, so this will be an interesting podcast.
Great way to start. Great way. Next, of course, we have the Duke of Rocket League, our champion. What's going on, Cole? How are you this week?
Doing good. Still enjoying being champion. So it's still happening. I'm not dropping down in the ranks. Cheers. Ready to go. Ready to talk about Elden Ring.
Perfect. We'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that. Also, we have the Duke of Nostalgia. What's going on, Taylor? How are you this week?
I'm also busy as a bumblebee, but I'm doing well.
And of course, we have the Duke of Education. How are you, Alfredo?
I am doing pretty great. Unfortunately, October/Spooktoberfest is over, so I'm officially not allowed to watch any more horror movies. But other than that, pretty good.
Oh, that's always a struggle. But what have you been playing this week? We'll start with you first.
Sure. I've been playing, like I said before, a lot of Watch Dogs. I'm really enjoying it. Watch Dogs Legion, to be specific. Getting in a little farther, straying away from my one main character that I'm used to playing because the game is getting kind of hard. So I keep getting arrested and am forced to switch characters. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Not that great at the game, but I'm enjoying it. But aside from that, I'm playing a new game that came out, I want to say last week or the week before that, a game called Inscription, which is a card deck builder game, sort of. So this game is made by, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is made by Daniel Mueller. Is that his name? Daniel Mueller Games?
Let me look it up.
Yeah,
real quick.
I'm going to look at it real quick because I do not want to...
Mullins?
Yes.
Is that it?
I think. Let's go with that. Let's go with Daniel Mullins. Right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. Daniel Mullins games. So he has made other games in the past, like Pony Island, which I heard was this really cryptic puzzle type game that was kind of meta, but I never played that game. I heard it was a great game, but it didn't seem like it was really right up my alley. But this is an indie game that just came out, which, unlike Pony Island, I believe, which was only about 2 to 3 hours, it was like a really short experience. But Inscription is supposed to be a 10-ish hour game. And I started it yesterday, and this game is really something unique. I love card builder deck games in the first place. And if you don't know what that means, basically picture a card game like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh!, like an actual card game that you play, and you're putting down cards on a battlefield and you're having them fight each other. That's basically what this new genre is about. Slay the Spire really brought this genre, or brought this deck builder game to consoles and to PC, and now it's becoming pretty popular. So if you played Slay the Spire, you kind of know what you're getting. Also games like Griftlands, which is also really, really great games, kind of plays with the formula a little bit by making it so that basically it's not only you gaining these different cards, you're also building relationships, kind of like Persona 5. So that's its whole deal. And then Inscription is something very, very different in that it's basically Yu-Gi-Oh!, I would say, because the game is all about sacrificing your smaller monsters in order to summon bigger, more powerful monsters, but it has a twist. And it's really, really hard to actually explain what the game is about without ruining all of the plot twists about it, so I'm trying to be careful in what I'm saying. But this is probably one of my favorite card deck builder games that I've ever played. It's definitely better than Slay the Spire for sure, and I would venture to say it's probably a little bit better than Griftlands too. And those are really, really great games. I'm only about 5 hours in, but what I will say about this game is that there's more to the game than meets the eye, because it is not specifically limited to just, oh, I'm gaining all these cards and trying to build the best deck that I can. There's a lot of different puzzle elements to it, and the game also transitions into different genres of games the further you get into it. I kind of reached a point where I thought the game was over and I beat it, and then it completely changed into a different genre of the game that stays as a card deck builder, but adds some really, really unique game mechanics to it. And it's so hard to say, not to say anything about this game, but I honestly think everybody should play this game, especially if you are a lover of card deck builder games. It's probably going to be one of my favorite games of this year, honestly. It's very good. And benefits of having a PC, because you don't really get these games on other on consoles or, you know, mobile until much, much later. Since it just released, I believe it's only available for PC, but if you guys have a PC, definitely give this game a go.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I looked it up a little bit. So it has like a horror kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, honestly, I believe we first saw it last at E3. Is that where we first saw this
we
game?
talked about it on our E3 show earlier in the summer, and I called it out because I had played Pony Island and had such an interesting experience with that one.
Yeah.
So Inscription is I'm stoked for it. I haven't had any time to play it yet, unfortunately, but I will definitely be jumping on that.
Yeah, honestly, when I saw it at E3, I wasn't that interested in the game at all. And after reading all the Steam reviews and seeing that it has like an overwhelmingly positive review rating, I decided to just jump in since I was looking for something new to play. And it is not disappointing. It is a very good game.
I just knew after having played Pony Island that like that game is the same way, where it's like nothing is like it seems.
Mhm.
Just by looking at it, you have no idea what you're in for just by looking at a trailer.
We might then, if you end up getting this game and finishing it, it would be great to do like some sort of review, hopefully, because I feel like this game is for sure worthy of one. You guys all should play it.
I think I will. I love it's been a while since I got into one. I think since maybe Slay the Spire. Maybe that's the last one I played. But I used to be addicted to Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you're saying it has that Yu-Gi-Oh! Element of summoning monsters.
This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big
this
time.
might be my thing. I might have to get it.
And not overcomplicated either. They make it really simple, like to understand what to do. And the game is really hard at first, but then like the more you play it and the more you go in the loop, because ultimately it's a roguelike game as well, because you'll lose and then you'll get stronger monsters and you'll gain different cards as you lose and start a new loop. It gets easier and easier the more that you play it, and you start to feel like Yugi, basically. I forgot Yugi's last name, but you feel pretty smart.
Moto, I think.
Yes, Yugi Moto.
Yeah. Big Yu-Gi-Oh fan here. But that sounds really interesting. I think I do remember. It's a Devolver Digital game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I do remember seeing this. So yeah, I'm there, especially if you're giving it good reviews like this. Yeah, I might have to check in with this. I might have to download it tonight. Anything else you've been playing?
Nope, I've been obsessed with this game.
Oh, perfect. I mean, it's
so
a good
pretty
game.
much that. Yeah.
Perfect. Ben, what have you been playing this week?
I haven't had a ton of time. I'm still like plugging away at Dark Souls 2, but not much more to say on that. I did play a very short game on Vita called Another World. And this is a 2014 remaster of a 1991 classic that I had never played before, called, like I said, called Another World, developed by a man named Eric Chahi. Apparently he did the whole thing himself, which is crazy to think about. what's notable about this game is that it features animation that is way ahead of 1991 standards. The whole thing is rotoscoped, so he recorded himself doing things and then drew over it to animate it.
Oh, cool.
From like some light reading about the development process and like what inspired him, he played. You guys know Dragon's Lair, right? Who is that? Don Bluth? Is that right?
I think that's right.
That's Don Bluth, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
By how horny it is, yeah.
So you guys know that game is renowned because of its animation, but its gameplay was kind of shitty. I mean, it was it was just a slew of like poorly optimized QuickTime events, essentially. So Eric Cha, he played this game and he was like, "Oh my god, the animation's so good, but the gameplay is so bad." And so he was like, "Okay, how can I make a game that's responsive and has awesome animation?" So that's what he did, and that's Another World. So the visuals are fairly stripped down, but they're very interesting and unique, especially for the time. I mean, 1991. You got to think about what else was out there.
That's like early SNES, right? Like that kind of.
Yeah. Was the SNES even out there?
Came out in 90.
I think SNES came out in 1990.
It's 92 or 93.
So yeah, I mean,
I wasn't born. I know I wasn't born yet.
It was before SNES. That was a
It was it was a computer game.
Okay.
So anyway, this game, the interesting thing to me in playing this game is that it most closely resembles in terms of gameplay, Limbo and Inside. This to me feels like a spiritual predecessor to those games, and I thought of an idea for what to call those types of games. You guys know that I have criticized Limbo and Inside for basically their puzzling, relying on you dying in order to figure out what you're actually supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way to like get it on the first try in most cases. So I started calling this game a trial and error adventure rather than a point and click adventure. So you try something, you die, and then you realize, oh, I should have jumped over the ledge instead of sliding. This game is very much the same in that you die, it loads you back, and then you try something different to progress. Aside from that, I mean, it's like a very pared down. I don't think the game has a single word of text in the entire thing. So there's no explanation as to what to do ever. And it's just, you're in this alien world and you have to figure out how to navigate it, how to escape, essentially. And it's pretty interesting. It was only, maybe an hour or hour and a half long. And that's with like a bunch of failure because I died a ton in this game. I really recommend it. It's very interesting. It's frustrating. It's not always the best in terms of gameplay, but it's very unique and it's an interesting, piece of gaming history. For a game like this, I mean, 1991 was 30 full years ago.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What's the name of the game again? What's the name?
Another
of
World.
Another World?
Yeah, Another World. So it was a PS Plus game, actually.
Really?
You might already have it for PS3, PS4, or Vita or Vita. If you just tend to redeem all those games.
Oh, cool. I'm about to check.
Yeah, but I recommend it. I recommend engaging with it a little bit. And if you get stuck, just look up a walkthrough. Just get through it. I mean, it's a very short game.
How would you, I guess, since you do compare it to games like Limbo and Inside, how would you rank it compared to them?
I don't know. I wouldn't say. I don't think it would be like fair to compare it because this is just the game is like. Limbo came out in like 2011, right? So this game was already 20 years prior to Limbo. I mean, this game is so. I say that I liken it to Limbo and Inside to illustrate how ahead of its time this game is, because it really is. It really is boundary pushing and excellent in that way. But it doesn't compare. I mean, it's a third or a quarter of the length of Limbo and maybe half as complex and twice as frustrating, and So it's got its rough edges, but still very worthwhile of an experience, especially given that like you're not going to live in that frustration for that long because it's a short game. I also like the general like sci-fi stylings of it. It feels very like we were talking about Flash Gordon last episode, and it feels like that to me. It feels like the 80s Flash Gordon to me, which is fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's awesome.
That's dope. Yeah,
Nice.
I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it actually is put into a genre I've never heard of before. It's called a cinematic platforming game.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to describe it too.
Is that what they called it back then?
That's what it has a Wikipedia page, and it's like it puts inside the Oddworld games, and it's like they kind of classify that as cinematic platformer. I never heard that one before.
Me either.
That's pretty. Sounds neat.
I buy it. Yeah,
I buy it too.
that's what it is. Yeah.
Don't mind
So for me, so I've been playing pretty much for the past 2 weeks, just 3 games. Kind of been circling back and forth. Been playing a bit of Black for Blood. Have that for free on Game Pass. Me and my friend, we've been kind of playing that. It is solid. It's a solid game. It's nothing to write home about. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, especially if you don't have Game Pass. I wouldn't recommend you pay $60 for something like that. But it's a pretty competent shooter. Matchmaking is cool. I like the card system. The card system kind of makes it more unique than other games of this type that I played before. But it's solid. I wouldn't kind of write home about it or anything like that. But if anybody's curious, anybody wants to just try it out shooter, I'd say give it a try, especially if you have Game Pass.
Did you have any issues with matchmaking? Because when I tried it, I had a ton of issues, and it basically just matched me up with bots, and it was matchmaking me while I was in the game. Like they didn't have any sort of lobby system where you can wait to matchmake and then you go into the level.
In terms of that, yes, I've had it where I've had bots with me, but I've only played with my friend. I've never tried to do solo. I don't know. Did you try to play with somebody?
No, I just tried to do it solo and match with somebody, but they made it so unintuitive that basically I was playing with bots, and in the game it never even matched me up with anybody, even after 20 to 30 minutes of playing.
Oh my gosh.
But this was during launch day, so I'm sure.
Well, what's the server health like? Do you guys know how many people are playing this game?
It's a sizable amount. I think it was over 5 million. I think that's what I saw.
So it's not for lack of players. It's
right. Yeah, I just think they just didn't handle the matchmaking very well until after I decided to put it down.
That's disappointing.
but maybe I'll hop back into it.
It's a fine time. Like I can't. It's not going to be on my game of the year list or anything like that. It definitely did not live up to my expectations I had for it. But I've always wanted to play Left 4 Dead, and this is a modern way to play that style of game. So I appreciate it from that standpoint. But yeah, it's one of the games I've been playing, probably the least amount. The second game I've been playing, though, I have a lot to say. I've been playing the new Guardians of the Galaxy video game. I'd like to say 2/3 of the way through this.
Nice.
It's about 17, 18 hours I've seen online. So I'm
That's much more than what I thought. Wow.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I played a lot of Marvel games in my day. A lot of the shitty ones, a lot of the good ones. This is up there. This is up there in terms of my favorite, like, superhero games in general. But just Marvel games, like, probably in my top 3. I am enjoying this game a lot. It's made by, I think it's still pronounced Eidos Montreal? Eidos, thank you. Eidos Montreal. The makers of the last 2 Deus Ex games, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, and they also made the recent Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So this game was, people were looking at this with kind of trepidatiousness, just because the last Square Enix published Marvel game was the Avengers. And this game looked very similar to the Avengers, except for the fact that it wasn't online. I can say with confidence that this, to me, was a home run. this is the best case scenario for what this game could have been. It has a very, very interesting story. I can't say, because I really enjoy, I don't know if you all have seen the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I really enjoy those movies. Those are some of my favorite Marvel movies. I don't think it hits as great as those movies do, but that's a high bar. I think for what it is, this is a very good story. It takes kind of what the movie did and kind of just like reskins like how Avengers tried to do, but I relate to these characters a lot more. Because I don't know, with Avengers, it kind of felt like those characters, they're kind of like inspired by the MCU characters. And you feel like they're pale comparisons. Like they don't feel anywhere near, they feel like they're trying to imitate, Robert Downey Jr. Like in this game, they have enough differences, and it's not like the story is picking up exactly where the MCU is. It's a completely different Guardians of the Galaxy, but the tone is there. And I think that really helps out the game. Some characters are very similar to the movies, but there are a couple characters like Mantis, for example, they're completely different, and it keeps things fresh. So the story I felt is very compelling. The combat surprised me in that while it's not simple, it's not like Mankind Divided, where it's, there's a lot going on in terms of the combat, in terms of just, overall just exploring the map. This game is way more linear than that. And it kind of is like corridors, really similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It reminds me a lot of that. Because, if you all played that, it's more of like, you're going through a level, and there's, you can walk around certain aspects of the level, but it's still very linear. It kind of works because, it's not, I don't think this needs to be an open world game. So I've enjoyed the combat also with, you control Star-Lord, and you have access to abilities of the other Guardians of the Galaxy, but you can never directly play as them. And so they're always on the field. They're always trying to do damage to the enemies, but you control their special abilities, and you can use them whenever you see fit. If things get too chaotic, you can do a huddle. You can stop the gameplay completely, and it has like a comical, Guardians of the Galaxy-esque kind of speech you can do, where it's like if you choose the right words to say to the team when they're arguing, it will give them like a boost up. And the soundtrack to this game is amazing, and this happens during the huddles, where like you pick the right things, and then a random 80s song will start playing.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
So you'll hear like, what's that song that like whenever somebody gets Rick rolled, what's that song?
Rick is Never Gonna Give You Up.
Yeah, so that song will just start playing while you're just like, fighting, and it just changes, and everybody has like more special abilities after you do the huddle. I love it. It really wouldn't work in a lot of other games, but since this is Guardians of the Galaxy, it works for me.
That makes me want to play the game.
Yeah, that sounds really funny.
Yeah. I love this game. It's not short by any means. I feel like that was the main worry I had. I thought this was going to be a shorter experience. This is a very full-feeling game. So I'm having an excellent time. It's among some of the funniest games I've ever played. Like I can list on my hand games I think that might be funnier than this game. This game really does know how to capture the Guardians of the Galaxy formula, and I think this is going to be a franchise. I think we're going to see a volume 2 of this at some point. So I am looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to finishing it and looking forward to the future of this franchise.
I got a question for you, but you go first, Ben.
You said this was one of your top 3 Marvel games. I assume that list is Spider-Man 2018, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then this game.
See,
so that's pretty high praise.
Here's the thing. I don't put Miles Morales up there because I just see it as DLC to Spider-Man.
So what's in your top 3?
Huh?
So
yeah,
what's the top
I was
3
curious
then?
about this. What was your top 3?
Obviously, number 1 is Spider-Man, and then number 2 is Marvel vs. Capcom.
I thought it was going to be Spider-Man for the Game Boy.
Oh, yeah, that's that classic.
Or Spider-Man 2 on PS1. That game was great.
Spider-Man Web of Shadows.
Yes, I played a lot of Web of Shadows. I that was a bad game, but I probably put like 100 hours into that.
Dude,
Was that the one
I
where they
love
had
that
like
game.
I love it
the
too, but
multiple different Spider-Mans, or was that another one?
No, that was Shattered Dimensions.
Oh,
this
I like that
Web
one.
of Shadows was an open world like Spider-Man game with Wolverine in it randomly and
You
Venom.
could switch
that's
between
cool.
the symbiote costume and the regular
Yeah.
costume at any time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
up.
cool.
That's up there too. I love that game, even though I think it's like I played it like maybe a couple months ago, and I was like, "Ooh, this game does not hold up well." But it was a great time at the time. But yeah, what was your question, Alfredo?
Oh, right, yeah. So for the game, so what you're saying is making me definitely want to pick it up and play it. But I do have a question as far as the choices go, because it seems like they were trying to do some sort of telltale branching path-ish or Mass Effect-ish type of deal where you get to choose different decisions throughout the gameplay. How impactful do the choices that you make actually carry over to the actual story? Like, is it important and central to the game, or is it more of like a background kind of thing that doesn't really matter at the end?
Good question. I would lean more towards not as much story wise, but gameplay wise, they actually matter. So story kind of, because there are certain moments where you make a choice and you will hear about it story wise later. But there are times, like for example, not to spoil anything, but you're with this other character and they're trying to hide something from another character. And so based on the choices you make, they hand you a said item. Maybe 4 chapters later, you're going through the same corridor and you have this item now that's helping you get through the level. If you didn't have that item, you would have to do a lot of other different things.
Yeah.
And another thing that happens is when, like for example, let's I'm not trying to spoil it, but when you're playing in the game, you'll have a dialogue option to maybe like stall an enemy through a cutscene, and you choose the wrong dialogue box, the enemy's not stalled. Now the level might be a little bit harder than it would have been if you had stalled that character. So more is it's affecting gameplay as opposed to affecting story, like a Telltale game would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So I enjoyed it. I've done a couple times where I've maybe loaded a save to see what the other decision would be, but you don't really see the benefits of those decisions till like 2 chapters later usually.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, it's a really solid game. I can't say it's like a classic or anything like that, but I'm having a good time playing it. A game that I might have to consider in my game of the year talk though. I have been playing Forza Horizon 5.
Wow.
Jesus. This is the best looking photorealistic game I've ever seen in my life. Now, I can't say it's better looking than a Ratchet and Clank or a Kena, but at the same time, those are going for a more cartoony style.
Mm-hmm.
This is going for photorealism. There are times in this game where it's just like I sit the car down and I'm like, God, this looks like a picture. A live picture, like a live background picture. This looks insane. This is the best looking game I have played all year. I played Forza Horizon 4 a bit when I first got my Xbox. I probably put like 4 hours into it. And I enjoyed it, but the issue I had with it was, I don't know if you all have ever played like a live service game like late, and you kind of feel like you've missed out on everything.
Yeah.
That's what playing Forza Horizon 4 felt like. I would drive to a place like, oh, a Legos arena? Oh, cool, let me drive here. You drive there, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta pay $30 to access this. And it's like, well, damn. And there was a lot of that in Forza Horizon 4. I feel like it was just the time it passed for me to play this game. I should have had Xbox years ago. I should have played it when it first came out. Woe is me. This game I'm starting is one of the best open worlds I've seen, just based on the fact that it gives me everything I like, driving and driving around those type of worlds, except you can't get out the car. But that same thrill of kind of like playing GTA Online when you're driving around, it's very similar to that.
Can I ask you something about that? So my thing with every other racing game, I like had this kick a while back, and I want to get in racing games, and I bought like some of the I bought Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. That game's beautiful, by the way. But I bought that and I played that, and I played Forza Horizon 4, and like the driving, to me, Grand Theft Auto is the best driving of any game, like period. I can't like just the way that the car handles on the road and like the physics are, it just feels so good. Is it similar to that? If you know what I mean? Like all these other driving
Yeah.
games feel like I don't know how to describe it. It feels like there's no connection with the car to the environment. And in Grand Theft Auto, it feels like it is connected to the environment. You can almost feel every rock, every bump. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah,
floaty or
this game, I feel it doesn't even try to go for how the Grand Theft Auto like does driving.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel anything like Grand Theft Auto from that standpoint. But I will say from 4 to 5, I feel every kind of terrain. If I'm swimming, if I'm driving in the mud, your controller kind of feels like it's driving in the mud. If you're driving on really rough terrain, there's going to be a lot more vibration. I think they've done a much better job of that. They also have improved the sound. The sound mixing I felt in Horizon 4 kind of felt lacking to me. This game has perfect sound, and there's a lot more gameplay environments because I think 4 took place in I think the UK. I know it's in Europe, but I think it took place in the UK specifically. This takes place in Mexico. So there are a lot more geographical differences and like climate condition differences. Like you can drive through a dust storm and that just feels completely different. It's there in it, like from a visual standpoint, it looks insane. But just from a sound standpoint and how the controller feels, it makes it feel like you're driving through a sandstorm. My only wish was this was on PS5 so I could use the DualSense with it. Because God knows what this will feel like with a DualSense. But the Xbox controller does a very good job simulating how it should feel. So yeah, I would say it's definitely not leaning more towards GTA driving, but I think it's done a much better job of making you feel like you're actually in these certain conditions. Yeah, so I've been playing this, and just to give a frame of reference, I got this game on Thursday. I am at level 42.
Jeez.
So this is your life.
I'm enjoying because I've had a very slow week because it's been recovering, so I haven't really had to work much because I've been recovering, and so I've had a lot of time just sitting back playing this, and this is my new podcast game. You know, I think we talked about that in a pod, like maybe like a month or two ago. We were talking about podcast games, things we can just kind of put in the background, while we're listening to a podcast. This is that game. This game is you don't really have to know anything that's going on with the story. The story is there if you want to consume it, but I don't know why you would.
There's a story. I didn't even
There
know
are a bunch
that.
of stories. There are a bunch of stories in the game, and it's like you go to different people and you kind of complete them. I don't know what they're saying. It's always on mute. I either have Spotify on, listening to, and this game is the perfect just cruising game because the open world, there's so much you can do. Like there are these little like XP like signs you can basically run through, and they're scattered all throughout the map. The only thing I don't like about the game is you have to collect the fast travel marks. So you have to literally like go and run over fast travel signs to unlock fast travel to the area. I would have preferred fast travel just be available, but it is what it is. But yeah, just collecting those signs is very fun. You could spend 2-3 hours just doing that because there's not just like there's signs just on the ground. They're like usually on top of houses as well. So you have to find like a hill nearby to jump off of. And then just the cars in and of themselves, like they look incredible and there's so many of them. And the game is always rewarding you. You always feel like you're accomplishing something. You get into a race, you get XP, you get accolade points. So I'm having a great time. It's highly rated. I think it's 91 on Metacritic. It is one of the most critically acclaimed games of the year. And it is very easy for me to see why, because I don't have a negative thing to say about the game. And I will be playing this probably for the next year or two. So having a great time with it.
I have so many questions, but I think I will save them until our Game of the Year discussion.
Oh, it will be there. You'll definitely be able to ask them then for sure, because this definitely will be. I can't see this dropping below 5. Definitely can't see this dropping below 5.
I'm gonna play it for the sake of that. Since you said it's so good, I want to play it on PC.
Mm-hmm.
I can. My friend, he has on PC. He says it looks so good. So I can. It looks great on my Series X, but I can only imagine what it looks like on PC. So yeah, definitely let me know what you think about it. Cole, what have you been playing this week?
I've been busy, so I haven't been playing much. I have played. So I got my Switch, and I was getting in bed, and I was gonna play the Eastward game that I played I talked about a month ago. That little RPG, which is really good and really cute. It's awesome. So I was gonna play that, but I picked my phone up, and I've been deleting apps off my phone, just to I've deleted a lot of social media apps just for sake of I feel like I've been getting sucked into them lately, and I'm like, I watched the Netflix documentary Social Dilemma, and it's made me like, all right, I need to put my phone down more. But which I don't really have a problem with it, but I just feel like I don't know, I kind of want to get more simplify everything a little bit. So anyway, I've deleted all these apps off my phone, and I ran across this little game that I had before. It's called Alto's Adventure. Have y'all heard of it? So I'm gonna be quick about this. It's just like it's a skiing game. It's like a simple game where you click and you hold, and your little skier will jump in the air and he'll do a backflip. And it gives you little goals. And it's like if you wreck, then you're done. You go back and start at the beginning, and you try to get like 5,000 meters, you get a token or whatever. But the sun slowly sets as you're playing the game. It's just really relaxing. And I just sat there, and we were watching, me and my wife were watching something on Netflix, and I was just playing it. But that's really the only thing I've played besides a few Rocket League games. But I'd recommend that little game. It's free iOS game, and you just sit there. The sun starts setting. You're playing the game. It's so relaxing. You're jumping and flipping over little snowy mountains and little towns lit up with Christmas lights. It's really pretty. But yeah,
what was that game? What was that game that was like huge when
Ski Free?
Early iPhone. Was it Ski Free? No, the one that I'm thinking of.
It was PC game back in the day. Ski Free was
the one that I'm thinking of. Was like a bird where you
Angry
Bird?
Flappy Bird.
Flappy Bird?
No.
Flappy Wings.
Not Angry Birds?
No. Predated that. It was like the sun would start going down, and then you'd have to time. It would go
exactly what you're talking about. I played that game. It's like you're going down like a slide, like
down the hills.
Oh my god!
And then you'd have to time your taps.
That's what reminds me of. That's what
I might have to play that game tonight. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
You would gain speed down the hill and then launch off the next hill.
I put an ungodly amount of hours into the game you're talking about.
You hold it down and you release at the top of the hill.
Tiny Wings. Tiny Wings. That's what it's called.
Tiny Wings. Yep.
That's such a great game.
God.
Such a great game.
It just unlocked a cavalcade of memories from
man.
In the recesses.
Well, I'm glad I told you about Alto's Adventure so we could have that moment.
Yeah, right.
So, I appreciate Alto's Adventure because I'm gonna be playing Tiny Wings tonight.
I've never heard of this game in my life.
That's it.
You gotta download Tiny Wings, Alfredo.
Real quick, I ask you guys because I downloaded the PlayStation Plus games for the week, and one of them was Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. Do y'all recommend that, or how do y'all feel about that?
So I never played it. I played the first level this week. I didn't want to because I didn't play enough of it to talk about. I'm going to finish this game. Now, if I'm going to finish it this year, that's a different story. But I'm going to finish this game because I was curious like you, and I like what I played.
Are these games available right now?
Yeah,
it was a PS Plus game.
Oh,
you guys know?
I can play Knockout City.
You guys know what another PS Plus game was?
Saints and Sinners for PSVR.
The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners for PSVR.
I saw that.
Go pick it up. The Aftershocks update came out like a month or so ago. That's the update with my writing in it. So you gotta check it out.
Heck yeah!
I still haven't finished it. Yeah, I have it on Oculus. I'm too scared to finish it.
Well, also, did y'all hear about Resident Evil 4 coming out
on VR?
On Quest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that too. I don't think I've played 4. So I'm curious. I would love for my first experience with that to be in VR. But yeah, definitely that,
Cool.
and definitely Saints and Sinners. Definitely got to get on that. Have you been playing anything else, Cole?
Nah, I've been so busy this week. I have next week I have a lot of time, so I'm planning on playing the GTA and then jumping in. I might play Saints and Sinners till GTA comes out. I'm trying to beat that thing by Thursday.
Sounds good. Of course, Taylor. What have you been playing this week?
I haven't been playing a video game. I read a book.
Classical man.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Was it
A
Nothing
visual
important,
novel?
Nothing important. It was when I say read a book, I read the first 8 pages of Dune. And that's
Nice.
Hey, did you see the movie?
No, I haven't. It's 3 fucking hours. No,
I haven't seen it either. I want to. It's been sitting on my computer to watch, but I just haven't gotten 3 hours.
I definitely saw it, but it did not feel like 3 hours when I was watching it.
It's not 3 hours. It's like 2:17, I think.
Hey Thomas, figure out how to blast it in VR and let's watch it in watch it in VR
Ooh,
together.
that's actually not a bad idea, Cole.
Put it on your what was it, SkyDrive or whatever?
I think
Sky TV?
truth be told, Cole, I think it's already on there because it's on my
What?
server.
Dude, if we can watch that, it'd be awesome. Because I want to see it.
We can plan to do it tomorrow.
100% I'm in. I'd
All
love
right,
to
cool.
do it.
I'm gonna test it tonight and see if we can do it.
Yeah.
But all right, so I guess we can since we're talking about movies, let's talk about Netflix. They have launched their new gaming platform. Is that what we're gonna call it? Best way to put it.
That's fair.
I think it's fair to say their gaming platform has launched officially only on Android, if that's correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we talked before, I don't think any of us have tried it, but are any of us interested in maybe giving it a try?
Nope.
I'm definitely interested. If I can ever remember my Netflix password, I was trying to sign in, and apparently either somebody changed it on me or I just can't remember. But the thing is, right now they only have 5 games on it, and it seems like all of these games are available one way or another on the App Store or the Google Store. A few of them, I believe, is the big ones, at least, are Stranger Things, the game 3, and Stranger Things 1984. And then they have 3 other games, I believe, that don't really strike my fancy. So I'm interested to see, like, once they actually expand their catalog, but it kind of seems like they're going the Apple Arcade kind of route with a Netflix subscription and you just having that with them. So I honestly don't see the benefit of, or how it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to market this to people who are interested in games without them saying, oh, I can just buy Google Play Pass or Apple Arcade instead and get a whole bunch of other games that are actually like across different genres and stuff and actually interesting versus Netflix, which just has these 5 games.
So
I don't know. It seems unnecessary to launch it with only 5 games.
Mhm.
Like, what's the point in doing it this way instead of just waiting till they have a substantial amount of games in their catalog to launch it?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm hoping that they maybe either acquire or develop a game studio that's in-house for them. I think that would be good. Because I feel like you would need to have some exclusive games to this thing. Like, I think that's going to be like necessary. Because why would you play on Netflix if you could play these games on other platforms?
Exactly.
So I'm not for sure. Like, I think, and this is just me thinking, they should acquire somebody like Telltale or something like that.
Well,
I think getting those, I feel like those type of games, like a narrative based game, those I feel like could fit this. But
they actually did acquire a studio, their first gaming studio, and they
really?
did it. Yeah, they did it late September, and it was the Night School studio, which made Oxenfree and After Party.
That's right.
So they
Really?
have those in their back pocket now, but they haven't really said what they're going to be doing with it in terms of what games they're exclusively going to have for Netflix gaming, but it does seem like they're going that route, which is good because it would be nice if they have a reason why, oh, Netflix has Oxenfree 2 or something like that exclusively for a month or something like that. But it does seem like they're going that route.
That's actually pretty great because I like Oxenfree.
I think if they use like a developer like that to build like a prequel to I don't know if Stranger Things is a prequel or whatever, but like, hey, Stranger Things season 5's coming out, play the prequel. That could be cool.
And I'm just gonna say this. I'm done with these. I'm tired of these Stranger Things games. I thought the first one was cool. Like
first one was cool, yeah.
I like the first one. It reminded me of like one of those like old school like computer games. Like I liked it, but this did not need to be a franchise. Like we did not need sequels to this game. And I don't know. I don't even think Stranger Things is their biggest franchise anymore.
I think it's technically Squid Game now. I think it's their number one.
Yeah, but I feel like Squid Game more is like the trend. Like it's their biggest game of the year. But Stranger Things, I don't know. I feel like ever since the first season, like it hasn't been like the biggest thing.
Yeah, I feel like season 1 and 2, and then it started to go down.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've liked all the seasons, like except for like one episode out of the second season. But I pretty much liked all the seasons. But I'm kind of tired of Stranger Things being like, just the mainstay of Netflix. They have a lot of other stuff they can do. So I'm hoping that, they acquire some more studios and they're working on some Netflix exclusive type, maybe even something like a Bandersnatch, that's exclusive to the gaming side. I think that'd be cool.
What else does Netflix have that's as marketable?
Show-wise?
They're about to have the Avatar show. I think that's going to be big.
It's going to be so bad, though. God.
Don't say that. Don't say that, Alfred.
It's going to be bad. This is kind of tangent, but this is why it's going to be bad. The original creators were helping them make it, and then they left, saying that this is going to be terrible. They didn't say that, but they said that it's no longer what we envisioned it to be, so we're going to leave the project.
That is such a commonplace thing with Netflix now that it's not even surprising. Like creators of original shows who've Netflix have decided let's make a live action, it's not going to be our thing, we're out, is really disappointing. But Netflix knows how to sell stuff for a little bit, but not for the long haul. Like Stranger Things is like a weird anomaly in Netflix where it still sells. You can go out and find the little bobblehead toys, the Nedroids or whatever they're called. God, I don't know. But
I know you're talking about.
Yeah,
the pop toys.
The pop toys, the pop vinyls.
Funko Pops.
Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. God, I'm old. But you can still buy a bunch of Stranger Things merchandise. There isn't another Netflix show I can think of that you can buy merchandise for. And
with games now, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. That's true.
So of course they're gonna push it as far as they can.
Mm-hmm. They also did, I believe, as far as making their vice president of game development, they pulled somebody from Facebook, I believe, or Meta now, and I believe his name is Mike Verdu, and he was in charge of AR and VR at Facebook. So putting him in charge of their game development for this Netflix gaming service is a little odd, because I'm wondering, okay, are they going to do anything VR related, and how exactly would that work with Netflix? But
Netflix,
I
would say sure. Netflix is one of the only streaming services that have a VR app. So if
they do, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if they do some more stuff in the VR space with this app, if they eventually bring this to, I would actually be curious if they go that direction too. I didn't know that they hired somebody who has history in VR and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Netflix future plans are for VR, but if gaming is included with that would be interesting as well. There are a lot of different directions they can do this. They can bring this into. Right now, I feel we all feel that right now it's a little lacking, but I think it has potential to expand in the future. So we'll all look out for it. Does anybody have any final thoughts on this development with Netflix? Well said.
I don't care.
I think I mean, I think we got to just keep it in perspective. This is clearly a test bed. This is clearly the starting point. I think they want to iron out the kinks. As far as I understand, if you're playing the games on Netflix, you're streaming them. I'm sure they want to understand how well their technology is working at scale before they're adding lots of interesting, fun games that people actually really, truly want to play. The thing that's interesting, the thing that's revealing to me about this is that the fact that they're targeting mobile games says to me something about their core audience and their core audience's viewing habits, which are on mobile. And that they feel like that's the place where they want to sweeten the pot, because that's what this is right now. This is not something to drive subscriptions. It's something to retain subscriptions. It's a plus on top of the real meat, which is still the TV and movies, and will continue to be for a long time. This is a fun extra that you pay no extra money for. It's a
That's
perk.
a good point.
So from that perspective, it's great. Keep adding more games. I mean, no skin off my nose, right? Until you jack the price up again. But, it is like what exactly their strategy is. I mean, we talked about this over a few different podcast episodes, and I feel like we just totally missed the mark, because like this was so obvious that this is what they were going to do. It was going to be Apple Arcade, and that's all it was going to be.
Yeah,
and we should have seen that coming, and we had these ideas, these grand visions of Netflix really stepping into the gaming space in a way that was going to contend with the types of games that we tend to play a lot. But is that where Netflix's audience is? No, not really.
No,
not really.
Not.
I mean, Stranger Things is their most popular show.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like this is an interesting first step, and I think, assuming that Netflix doesn't take a Google like tactic where if it doesn't work within the first couple of years they abandon it, I think this will inevitably bloom into something much more interesting than what it is right now.
And
go ahead.
Go
Sorry, go right now.
I was just going to say, the way that they're rolling it out kind of makes it seem like they are going along that Google approach, because just launching it with 5 games is not really, I would say, giving it a fair shot to see how things would be on a larger scale, like at least 20 games, like something substantial for people to be able to pick and choose what they kind of want to play would give it a better shot. But not only that, but they're also in their actual TV and movies that they're doing. The TVs used to be, okay, we're going to have all of these different series and see where they go. Now, instead of doing that, they're doing limited series, which they no longer have to guarantee that, oh, this is going to be a long-standing season by season show. We're only doing 1 season of this unless it's a powerhouse of a show like Squid Game. Now that because that did so well, now we're going to do a second season, but they're no longer seemingly giving new things a chance or like a shot. They're kind of just saying,
3 seasons and out. That's the hashtag.
Yeah.
You get 3 seasons and that's it. Like, that's what Netflix. They should not do a second season of Squid Game. I'll go to the grave thinking that.
I think it's already in talks, actually.
I know. I'm very disheartened by that. It ended so perfectly. But just to wrap it up, I think that if I were to guess the application that Netflix has, the platform that receives the least amount of viewership and least amount of views is probably the mobile app. I would assume that, you're getting a lot from, just the apps on streaming boxes, on game devices, probably getting a lot on smart TVs, on iPads, tablets. I don't know.
I totally disagree. No, I think you would be shocked by the overwhelming majority of people that are watching Netflix shows and movies on mobile devices. I think it's more than half of all,
like, just straight off the mobile
Netflix
device?
consumption
Really?
is on a phone or on a tablet. It's crazy how much more people are watching on phones and tablets than on TVs.
Really?
It's
I need to
super
meet
rare.
these people.
Yeah. You don't see them. They hide out of shame.
They're in their cave. They're in their caves.
Yeah. But they're. I mean, think about how many people live in cities, right? And how commutes go, and you're on the train, and there's the market for the podcasts and the market for like the people who stream Amazon, Netflix, Hulu on their phones. Just, walking on the subway, in the park, at lunch, you go to the city, everyone's looking at their phone watching. From my experience, every city that has a metro, everyone's watching something on their phone. And I'm like, those people outnumber us normal people by a lot. So,
Never thought
According
of it that
to
way.
a article that I just found in 2018, Netflix said that 70% of viewing happens on TVs, so about 30% on mobiles as of 2018. But who
Yeah,
knows how much that has
I saw
changed?
that too. That actually might be even less on mobile because I'm not sure if they separate TV out from like game consoles and that kind of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, okay, I definitely oversold that. What I think for the same article that you were just talking about, Alfredo, half of users watch on mobile devices, but not half of viewing is on mobile devices.
Mhm.
It's way
Yeah.
less than that. That
And
is
Yeah.
also with
Now that
mobile,
was 3
a
years
lot of
ago
people
too,
use
so
it as like
that was
they
3 years ago. Yeah.
and they also use it to stream to their, like, let's say what's like AirPlay, like they'll
Yep.
get it from their
Mhm.
phone and like stream it to their TV. A lot
that's
of
what I
people use
do.
mobile
Yeah,
that way as well. I use it for that. But
yeah, I do
besides
too.
that, yeah, if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna use my iPad.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're right, Ben. There is a good amount of people who do use it for mobile. I just think that this is a way to maybe increase that number because it's giving you a reason to use the app. So I think that that's part of it. But I hope to see this blossom. I think this could be potentially be something really cool like Apple Arcade is.
I still want a Telltale game from them.
Hopefully.
Probably not going to get it, but I can
Maybe
hope.
maybe we'll get Elden Ring on there one day. Possibly. But we did get some Elden Ring gameplay footage. Now, I will be quiet because I have not seen it yet. But I am very curious to hear you all's thoughts on what happened with this gameplay footage. Anybody can start. I'm very curious.
all right. So I was looking forward to this like crazy. So I watched the 20-minute. I watched it right before bed because I had a busy day and I actually forgot that it came out. And I got on my phone, whatever, and I remembered it was out, and I was so pumped. I watched it. I like took it in, and I went to sleep. I like fell asleep like 15 minutes later, and this was probably 11 o'clock at night. Then I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I watched the whole thing again. I don't know why. And I had to work the next morning. It was so weird. Like I got up to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and I was like, I just popped open my iPad and watched the entire thing again. Um, I thought it was awesome, and
Mm.
it was honestly about what I expected. I mean, it didn't like it blow my expectations away, but it kind of confirmed like, okay, this is going to be special. Um, I kind of don't know where to start. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I watched it too. I only watched it one time, but I was actually pretty shocked at the amount of magic options that were seemingly available because with Dark Souls and Bloodborne, as far as all of those Soulsborne games go, magic is usually pretty limited. You're shooting like a beam of light and it takes forever to cast, so usually it's not very viable to go with a magic build unless like you have co-op partners who are in melee range and things like that. But it seemed like magic was being used more like a MMO that I saw. Like they were these really, really flashy attacks. One person had like summoned a dragon head that came out of their sword or something and just started breathing fire. Another person had like an Iron Man unibeam come out of their chest. Like it was crazy and it looked amazing. So I'm excited for that aspect of focusing on the magic to be much more expanded. But aside from that, it also seems like the combat animations were also expanded and that they're actually making the different weapons really unique as far as movesets go, because I felt like in all of the previous games with Dark Souls that we got, it was just okay, you're hacking and slashing and dodging out of the roll. But for this game, they seem to have a lot of different type of movesets, kind of like a fighting game where it looked very, very different in terms of attacking, depending on what type of weapon you actually equip. So I'm pretty excited for that as well. But the game looks amazing, and I'm very excited.
I am still trepidatious about what the open world is going to do to the Souls game formula, which this is clearly in so many ways an extension of Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro, and this is the next step in that evolution. So I am still cautiously optimistic about what the open world is going to do to that. I saw a lot of just like potential to just skip directly past encounters in the open world, which I feel like runs counter to the spirit of the Souls games in some ways. Though it does seem clear that our kind of prediction about there being dungeon areas that mimic more closely a level in a Souls game is definitely going to happen. So they went to the castle and they're like, this is a I forget I think they might have even called it a dungeon. This is
Or
more like
stronghold.
what you're familiar with essentially. I don't know. I think the open world either has the potential to reinvigorate this game or to pad it out with needless excess in a game series that is known for how tightly crafted and considered their worlds are.
Yeah, one thing that I thought was weak there was this almost a stealth section in it, and I thought it felt very weak.
That's straight out of Sekiro, I feel like.
Yeah. But I don't know, for whatever reason, it just looked a little weak. But if they can, I mean, obviously, if they can nail the open world, I mean, if they like being able to roam this area and stumble into like this almost chalice dungeon type area or something like that, they showed like a little mini dungeon, which looked awesome. And if it has like a real true reward, like you find some unique weapon, like and then all the encounters, if they're have the weight that Dark Souls usually does, I mean, it could be really special. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I was looking at the open world and I was thinking it felt almost like they just dropped in this potential encounter and you can just run right by it and they wouldn't even notice you. Like, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be. I am, like I said, I'm excited about it, but I'm not really blown away or anything. So I kind of go back and forth.
I don't think I'm not concerned with it because I definitely, when I was watching the preview, it drew a lot of comparisons to Ghost of Tsushima for me. They did mention that there was going to be some sort of guiding light, like the wind in Ghost of Tsushima, that was basically like a waypoint showing, oh, you can go this direction, but since it's an open world, you can kind of go wherever you want. And it also seems like Breath of the Wild-esque, where you can tackle these different dungeons, multiple in any kind of way you want. But I could definitely see them easily rectifying the concerns of people. Like you can completely run across like this the carriage that's pulling these massive bosses. You can completely go over them, but I feel like they would easily be able to rectify that by saying, okay, you can go this way, you get to a dungeon, but in order to get in here you need this key from the master who is being transported through that carriage. So then you have to go back and defeat
That's cool.
and figure out how to do that. So I feel like they would do some sort of level design decisions like that, as well as maybe even manipulating the map so that you can't go across this moat of lava or whatever before doing X task or going to this region. So I think they would. That's kind of where I see this going, but I'm honestly just speculating.
So I'll say I think if since Dark Souls is so intense, even if the open world is a little bit barren and there's not much to do, it will almost play nicely because it gives you that break and that time to breathe and take in the sights and ride the horse because it is so ridiculously intense with the encounters and the boss fights and dungeons and stuff like that. I feel like it could work in that sense, even if they don't nail the open world part. It's going to feel nice to have that breathing room.
Hmm. Also, the costumes looked sick. They look real
Yeah.
cool.
The art design for this game looks incredible. What I've seen
Mhm.
so far, it looks, and I have never been impressed by how Dark Souls looks. I've been impressed by gameplay, been impressed by combat, all that, but never how it looks. This is the first one where I'm looking at it like that looks very appealing.
It's a lot brighter, more vivid, seems
Mhm.
more optimistic.
especially the big ass tree in the background. That's a very impressive looking tree.
Mhm. Crazy, it's only 3 months away too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
Next year is going to be
That
crazy though, because we're going to have 1 million games around that time.
What a weird
There's
time.
jumping now too.
Oh yeah.
The traversal looked pretty cool. I mean, it looked pretty very platformy. I mean, you miss, you're done. Like it's not
Can
very-
you jump, or can that horse thing jump?
both.
Oh,
Yeah.
both. Okay, cool.
There was jumping in Sekiro as well, I think.
Oh yeah,
There was.
But the fall damage in this game, I'm not sure if like the lack of fall damage was a thing in Sekiro, but the dude takes some like serious
yeah. He had a big drop one time.
falls, and there's
I was like, that was a big drop.
no repercussions seemingly.
Hey, I am team no fall damage. I hate fall damage in video games. It's a video game. Just let me fall where I need to. So I'm a fan of that.
They also get around it with the horse because it has like a double jump mechanic where basically you could just jump off a cliff and then jump again so that it doesn't take damage from what it looked like.
Cool. I like that mechanic in games, so that's a plus for me.
Game looks good though.
Yeah, I mean, looks good. I'm still at the point where, like Ben said, I'm still like, I don't know if it's going to be a 10 out of 10 or what's going to happen with this. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to like it.
I'm sure the floor at the very minimum is a 7 out of 10 for this game.
Yeah.
I can't picture it going any lower than that. It's just a matter of how good is it going to be from there. They've established, even in their Armored Core games, there's a level of quality there that they always seem to bring, and they always seem to have surprises. So I'm sure like what they've shown is only half of what to expect from this game. So I'm looking forward to it. It might not be a day one for me because I'm gonna probably use January to get caught up my backlog, but it looks as interesting of a Souls game as I've seen.
Yeah, and did we say that the map is Breath of the Wild style where you put your icons down?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that map
looks
looks
like-
huge too.
Looks like there's no markers. I mean, I think they had the display turned off, but it looks like it's completely like Breath of the Wild. You mark your own stuff, which you would expect if they did a map system. That's how they would do it.
Next year, tell me they have a Sheikah tablet. But yeah, I think using Breath of the Wild, that's a very good inspiration. Because I think that
I mean, Dark Souls games are just Zelda games to begin with, so they're just moving into the modern Zelda.
Well, that's what I always said, that my dream game would be a Dark Souls open world game that was more bright and more positive than, which this is still a little grim. It's
totally
brighter than the other games, but it's still dark, I would say. But it's definitely leaning towards that brighter color.
So basically, Kena is what you're saying, Cole.
That's true. That's true.
Try.
From a writing standpoint, do y'all, from the gameplay trailer you've seen, everything you've seen, does this look to be more Sekiro or more Dark Souls in terms of like the writing, the story?
It's hard to tell. Seems very Dark Souls to me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I wish that they were leaning more towards Sekiro, because with Dark Souls, I never know what is happening. I'm just fighting these people just because that's what the game wants me to do. But I was hoping that this time around you wouldn't have to go digging for the lore, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
And that's the thing, because you have George Martin.
George R. Martin.
You have him writing, the lore for this game. I'm curious as to what that lore is going to look like, because it better not look like just regular Dark Souls stuff. It seems like a waste of a paycheck. But I'm hoping that there's a lot there. There's a little more story this time around. It doesn't have to be told like Sekiro. I know Sekiro is more straightforward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd hope that maybe they stick to that Dark Souls formula, but still just give you a lot more interesting lore. The world itself, from what I've seen, looks a lot more interesting than a Dark Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fairly curious. So it seems like you have positive thoughts, but it didn't blow you all away. That's what it kind of seems like.
It actually, I was cautious before this, and now this is for sure a day one for me.
Yeah, it's for sure day one. That's I'm all in on it, but
So we have 2 day
I don't know if it's gonna
ones.
be a masterpiece.
Ben, is this a day one for you?
Yeah, I've been on a Souls kick this year, so I don't think I'm going to catch up by the time this game comes out. Like, I don't think I'll beat. I'm in the middle of Dark Souls 2 right now, so I still got 3 and Sekiro to get through. But maybe I'll just put Sekiro on the back burner and jump right to this one.
Oh, that's the best one though. So good.
Taylor, are you at all intrigued by Elden Ring? What you seen?
Oh yeah, 100%. I just don't know if I'm gonna play it because I don't have a system to play it on.
Last gen?
Your PS4?
Is it on PS4?
Yeah, it's on last gen.
Geez, because Deathloop bothered me because it didn't come out on PS4. I was like, damn it, I wanted to play that so bad, my PC wouldn't play it. So, no, if it's on PS4, then yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna play it. All right, well, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
I didn't know that either.
Well, peer pressure kicked in. I might have to make this a day one purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Elden Ring is, it's an RPG. We know this. And From Software is home to some of the most critically acclaimed RPGs, which has me thinking, what are some of our favorite RPGs? I know it's a tough question. If you have to think about it, take your time a little bit. But yeah, I just kind of want to talk about, you can name this list maybe like 2 or 3 of some of your favorites. If anybody wants to start, they can start. If not, I'll start. I have my 2 lined up.
Please do.
Go for it.
So I will start with my newest entry into my favorites. Now, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I haven't played every single Final Fantasy, but I've played a good amount of them. Definitely all the critically acclaimed ones. And I never thought that I would get a game that I enjoyed better than Final Fantasy VI. I absolutely love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think it is an underrated RPG classic for me.
How is it underrated? It's so highly rated. How can it be underrated?
Because I think people see it as an action RPG.
Okay, not as an RPG.
More like Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, and I think I will say, Alfredo, Kingdom Hearts is an underrated RPG as well. I think it's underrated.
Maybe
as well.
I'll talk about this on my turn. Maybe
it's an aptly rated RPG.
Well, from an RPG perspective, I'm saying it Kingdom Hearts. From a story perspective, we're not even going to go there.
We will go there. We will go there eventually for Ben's book club.
We will for sure. Tune in for that. But with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think it makes the systems that were in the original game, it expands upon them in the best way possible. I've always felt that the Materia system was the best RPG system I've ever played. I think the Materia system in this game improves upon that. So this automatically replaces that as my favorite RPG system, because I have never played an RPG where your weapons themselves have skill trees.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this game does that very well. I think that you have so much level of customization that truth be told, I play a lot of RPGs. I have never encountered so much customization in an RPG except for this game. And if you don't want to fight, just straight up action RPG, there are like methods where you can kind of do, not turn-based per se, but it moves a lot slower. And I love the fact that it kind of gives you those options. And that's what I think RPGs, while they all have systems, they all have battle systems, I think the best ones offer flexibility. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake has, to me, some of the best flexibility for how you want to play it. I think its switching system between party members is seamless. Each party member feels substantial. I think that's really key for an RPG. So yeah, I think it's not an underrated game, because you're right, Ben. It is definitely critically acclaimed, especially, since it had such an impossible task of trying to follow up one of the seminal PlayStation games of all time. One of the, the game that really put Final Fantasy on the map in the States. This game had a lot of hype, and for it to exceed it is impressive. But just as an RPG in general, I think it is so well built. And Square, I think they built some very fun foundation for what they can do going forward for this franchise. My second one is a tad older, but it's not, super old. It's about a decade old. Back in 2010, there was this game that came out as a time exclusive for the Xbox 360 that I wanted so bad, and I wasn't able to play it until 13. I saw Mass Effect 2 as an Xbox 360 exclusive. And just from first viewing, I thought, I'm going to love this game. I did not know how much I was going to love this game. And when it finally came out for PS3, I beat this game 3 times in a row. I was addicted to this game. I think from a system standpoint, it's not as, in depth as something like Wild Arms, something like, a lot of different RPGs of that nature, turn-based RPGs. But as an action RPG, as a third-person shooter RPG, I think it's in a class by itself as well, in addition to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's also one of those games that utilizes dialogue trees very well. I think that adds to the role-playing element of it in a different way, where your shepherd is your shepherd. And you control your shepherd, if they're a jerk, if they're a nice person, if you want to go renegade.
Is that a Bible verse? Your shepherd is a shepherd. Your shepherd is a shepherd.
You took me back to Sunday school.
Remember that.
Oh man, but yeah, no, I like Mass Effect 1. I'm playing through that actually now because I have the Legendary Collection, just to see if that holds up even better. But I played through 2 and I played through 3. And 3 is good as well, but 2 is great, and it doesn't have the baggage that 3 has. So I love, Mass Effect 2 as probably my favorite space game of all time. We'll see what Starfield does next year. But, it's Mass Effect 2 is some of the best RPG gameplay I played in my, gaming career. So, yeah, those are my 2.
Those are good choices.
Yeah, those are great choices.
Hey there, I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Dusty.
From Dad's Doing Nerd Shit.
A podcast on the Fandom Limb Media Network.
We talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff.
From Dungeons and Dragons to the MCU.
From video games to semi-current space news.
And anything else that catches our attention.
New episodes go live every Monday morning on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter.
So roll the dice and join us as we discuss the things we love and the culture around being a nerd.
Hear ye, sorry about the technical difficulties. Anyway, so what I was saying was, Alfredo said you wanted me to be in the RPG one because I really like RPGs. And I was sitting there and I was like, so many good RPGs. There's Mother 2, there's Disco Elysium, there's Mass Effect 2, there's The Witcher 3, there's South Park Fractured Butthole. But then I found my top 3, and I think it's probably going to disappoint you all.
Oh no.
In 3-1 order, we're going Pokemon Black and White 2. Either one, doesn't matter. Because I think those games perfected. They are the only perfect Pokemon games. They are the only good Pokemon games. And
10 out of 10 perfect? In your opinion?
As in Pokemon game terms, yes.
What makes it so different than all the other Pokemons?
I'm sorry, Pokemon. You said in Pokemon terms, it's okay.
Yeah. In normal game terms, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, which is the highest I'd ever give a Pokemon game. Which is like the highest I'd ever give a Pokemon game.
And this is one of your favorite RPGs.
Yes, because
you're better than IGN.
One of the things I like about RPGs is the replayability with variables. And Pokemon is a franchise that should be able to play upon those variables so well because of how many different mechanics are going on at once. but it's simplified and stupidified in Pokemon to such a simple linear path that you don't really usually have to choose a different way. The thing I like about Pokemon Black and White 2 is that as you're progressing through the story, which is the only good Pokemon story, there's no story in Pokemon that works better than Pokemon Black and White 2. Even though it is a sequel, you don't have to play Black and White. You're going through the story, and the areas you can uncover, it actually feels like you're adventuring around in a Pokemon world instead of just going from place to place capturing Pokemon. When you play Pokemon Red or Blue, you are stuck catching 3 Pokemon in each area that are different, and you're building your team off of those. In Pokemon Black and White 2, you were given just like an infinite pool of Pokemon to choose from in each area, and some of them are harder to get. So if you want to get them, you see the puzzle in front of you, like, how do I figure that out? How do I get to those Pokemon? How do I find them? And you do, and your team is stronger or weaker or more interesting, depending on where you unlock in the game. The only issue with this game is, it's the longest Pokemon game too, without a doubt. It's the most challenging Pokemon game. It's the only Pokemon game with a setting for whether you want it to be easy or hard. And it's the only game that actually plays upon the more intricate mechanics at play with the battle system. It actually challenges you. A lot of the AI Pokemon games are kind of dumbed down. Your Pokemon are given 4 move slots, but a lot of the AI in Pokemon games will have 2 moves out of the 4, even when you're at the final part of the game, so there's no challenge. But in Black and White 2, the AI all have 4 moves, and they're all, like, really well tuned to how the Pokemon could be able to beat yours. The AI isn't stupid in this game like they are in most games. Most Pokemon games, and which is why I think people who like Pokemon don't like Pokemon Black and White 2, because it's hard. It's harder than most. And it's the last good one because you actually had to try to win. So I think it's the perfect Pokemon game, and I like how I can change my team up if I play it again and again and again. The replayability hasn't died down for me because I get so many new options for Pokemon instead of just like Pidgey and Charmander over and over again. So I really like that game. Number 2, Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is just, I love all the Fallout games except for 76. Fallout 3 was one of my first favorite video games, but it doesn't have the replayability that New Vegas does. New Vegas is still playable, and it's such a cool aesthetic. It's such a great aesthetic for a game, and you really do sort of cowboy in the post-apocalypse, and there's really nothing cooler at the end of the day. And it doesn't, and the decisions in that game, each decision you get to make in the branching paths doesn't seem as cheesy. It's not as cheesy as some of the other Fallout games. Fallout 4 and Fallout 3 are games that are a little cheesy with what you do. Like, oh, I blew up a whole town with a nuke. Ha ha ha, I'm evil now. This game feels a little bit more grounded, which is weird because it's a game about being a cowboy who was shot in the post-apocalypse, and there's giant scorpions. But I digress. I love Fallout New Vegas.
I gotta jump in there too because this was one of my favorites, and it was a huge inspiration for me when we were developing Saints and Sinners. I would bring this game up constantly, specifically with the quest design. This game is so reactive. It's so reactive at a scale that other games can't support this type of reactivity in. In fact, to an extent that this game itself cannot support the reactivity that it has. I mean, like the worst things about this game are the way it plays and runs. It's totally a broken game. Top to bottom. It's a completely broken game.
Less broken than Fallout 3.
You can fix it on PC.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's utterly broken. But it's a testament to how incredible this game is that it's still so enrapturing. I mean, I played this game multiple times on PS3. Every time I play on PS3, when your save file gets to a certain like critical mass, the game just starts chugging and it can't hold frame rate. And every time I go to the old Mormon fort on a PS3 save file larger than like 2 megabytes, it's a slideshow.
Can I just say, when I first played it, I didn't like using VATs because I was used to playing like Halo and stuff where you're shooting in real time. I did not like using the VAT system, but the solution to that weird choppy sluggishness was always using VATs, because when I was playing it and I'm like, my game's just 2 frames a second now. Oh, it's got a mechanic in there where I make it 2 frames a second and I don't miss any shots. I'll just do that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I and one thing that I really have to commend with this game is that it's got this incredible, and this is another like very inspirational thing for me, you know, working on my first game. It's got this incredible story of all of these competing interests, political factions in the wasteland as its main story.
Yeah.
And coming to understand all of those different factions and reconcile them with one another or not, depending on how you want to approach everything. And then, sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
I'm just saying, on top of that, because I love the political intrigue of the story, but I think the most incredible part about that is the story is the main story about your character is that you're a delivery boy who did something you don't know, and you get wrapped up in all this nonsense political intrigue. It's so, but it's seamless. It's really seamless. You don't really know what's going on. You're still in the back of your head thinking, what package? Why did Chandler from Friends shoot me?
Yep.
And you just, I think the story is amazing.
I totally agree, and that question like hangs over your head the whole game, and then the DLCs each have their own sort of concerns, but there's this background element in each of the DLCs, like the Pied Piper is going to come for you, and like it's time to pay the piper. It's time to pay the piper at the end of like, or you know, at some point in each of these DLCs, it's hinted at that someone's been looking for you. Someone's been here just before you, and they're after you. And then the 4th DLC goes into that. So like, there's this undercurrent of your personal story through all of the DLCs that is sort of absent from the main game, but is handled so deftly for a game that wants you to feel like you are that person living in this world, but then also assigns you a backstory. That's something that is, I can't overstate how often that's bristled at in terms of like game design conversations when you're talking about putting someone in the shoes of a character. Most of the time people or designers like don't want to assign you narrative baggage ahead of time, right? They want you to allow, in an RPG like game, they want to allow you to assign your own values onto the character and do things that you want to do. And then New Vegas does that in the main game, and then it has its cake and it eats it too, because in the DLC it gets to give you a tragic backstory and still explore that. So I wanted to call that out specifically because that's an underrated element of this game.
You talk about that, and I think that tragic backstory is something that really ruins Fallout 4. Because Fallout 4 really, really, really wants you to care about your character and your son and your wife and this whole ridiculous backstory that takes way too long. It's longer than Metal Gear Solid 5's opening. And it doesn't actually teach you how to play the game. It's just like a cinematic nonsense. But
like you said, it didn't work. Like you didn't care about them at all. So that's what Ben's saying. That's why they're so hesitant to do that, because most of the time people don't care.
Yeah, but Vegas definitely balances that, because it gives you just enough to make your own interpretations. And I don't think you could do that again without seeming like you were copying it or being a knockoff.
Is New Vegas top-down perspective or like Fallout 4 where it's first person?
It's yeah.
It's the same engine as Fallout 3.
Yeah,
so
it's Fallout 3, Fallout 4
first person.
Got it. Cool.
I never finished
I
it.
have to play it.
Well, that's Fallout New Vegas, and number 1 for me is Undertale. Undertale is my favorite RPG of all time, which is weird because I can't replay it. I cannot go back and play it, and I actually haven't played Deltarune 1 or 2 yet. I don't know how many of you have played Undertale.
I tried.
I watched a Let's Play of it. Haven't played it myself though.
It's a very clever game, and I think the thing I like about it the most is that it's really an underdog story. Undertale is an underdog story. The creator of the games, Toby
Fox,
thank you, has gone on. He started his career as a troll on Homestuck forums. Homestuck was a comic, an online comic that was very popular, and Toby Fox started his career as a troll on those forums, just talking about how he wanted the characters to be pregnant. And he went on to make one of the most popular video games of all time, so much so that the guy got one of his characters in a Smash Brothers game. Sans is in Smash, and the dude directed a music track for the newest Pokemon game.
Really?
So, yeah, he directed the music for
awesome.
the challenge at the end of the game. After you beat the game, there's a challenging part, like a really, really hard, you can't beat this part. He did the music for that. And I'm like, this dude just, how did he do it? But I think how he did it was Undertale is really just a heartwarming game. The RPG mechanics don't really make themselves as known to you as like Fallout or Pokemon, where they're kind of in your face. Or Mass Effect is another great example of just an RPG where you know it's an RPG. Undertale is interesting because the game knows you're playing a game. You can play through the game and kill everyone, as is your gut reaction to playing an RPG. You come across the first enemy and it's a ghost, or I think it's a ghost, and your reaction is, I want to kill it. And it's really hard to kill, but you can do it. But if you go through the menu options of what you can do in the battle, you can choose to just like try to give it a hug. And if you keep doing that, it will eventually give you a hug back, and you can finish the battle without actually killing it. And this goes on throughout the rest of the game. If you kill any of the characters in the game, it will remember that in a very weird way. If you restart the game and you've killed any of the characters in your first run through, you can't replay this game without affecting the next playthrough of the game. I love that about it, and it makes it hard to play again. It's not the reason I haven't replayed it, but it's supposed to be replayed, but I can't replay it. Mostly because I took too much acid when I was playing it, and my emotions are tied too deeply to this game. But if you kill any of the characters in your first play through the game and you come back and play it again, the characters will remember it. The mother who adopts you at the beginning of the game will remember that and treat you differently. And the battle mechanics themselves, whether or not you decide to do a peaceful route or a genocidal route or a neutral route, are really unique for an RPG, because they are QuickTime events. They are technically QuickTime events, but done so seamlessly with the story that you don't even think about it. They're just you're so invested to the game that when you come into a battle and you have to choose, I'm gonna punch you, or I'm going to try to give you a dog biscuit, and then a QuickTime event pops up and you have to dodge a bunch of dog bones flying at you. It's really engaging. It's very charming, and you really either feel like a good or a bad person by the end of it. And I like it when an RPG makes me feel like I really, really invested my time into becoming the character I was playing. And Undertale does that. And I want to play Deltarune 1 and 2 because they look fun, but I don't think that they will have the same magic that Undertale does. Undertale is its own thing, and I don't think you could repeat it. I give Toby Fox credit for continuing to make the games that made him successful, but I just don't think they can live up to Undertale's perfect little cataclysm of everything working together. And I think knowing about just me telling you how the games work ruins some of the game. Unless
well,
you
thanks
really,
for that.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
But I highly recommend everyone try to play Undertale because I like Disco Elysium. I would say that Undertale, it might not be one of the forever franchises that just lasts on into eternity, but it is going to be one of the most influential games when people who played it start making their own games. It's just, it's an important game.
Yeah, I second that. Even as somebody who never even played the game myself, I just watched a Let's Play of it, and I watched somebody basically go through all of those different routes that you were talking about, Clams, and even not playing it, it did make me feel like this is something unique in that I have never seen an RPG do what Undertale did. And it did it in such a way that it's really unparalleled in how it tells its story, how its game mechanics are actually implemented, and how it kind of even affects your computer files in order to aid in the storytelling manner. And it's definitely something I also recommend people play or watch a Let's Play of if they have the time.
Yeah, it's funny, it's emotional, it's sad, it's goofy, and it really takes you for a ride. It takes you for a ride while still making you feel like you're in control. You're not, but you feel like you are. And so I think it's the best RPG. It's the best RPG.
Well said. Well said. I might have to give it a go. And I have it on Switch, but I have not put the time into it. So I think I might just do that.
I think it's a better PC game. I wouldn't play it on a console. Just myself. Yeah.
Right. Alfredo, why don't you go next?
Sure. Yeah, so not in any particular order. Two of my favorites that I will say. I'll second your pick, Thomas, in that Final Fantasy VII Remake is a extremely good RPG. I don't know if I would say it is my favorite, but what I will say about it is it made me feel like a complete badass. And the battle system itself innovated the turn-based combat system in a way that I didn't think was possible. So amazing game there. For my pick, so my first one would be, as you guys probably called it, Final Fantasy IX. Surprise, surprise. Just because, as I have stated multiple times before, so I won't bore you with the details, but I feel like this is the one Final Fantasy that has stood the test of time in terms of story, in terms of battle system, both of them combined. The story, it makes sense. It dives into the backstory of each and every single character and ties it into the main story in a way that makes sense. You're not confused. You actually care about each party member, and there's not really a weak party member. Well, there might be one, but even that party member is kind of like the class clown of the group, and you grow to love them just because how the game sets you up to basically force you to play with that character, and then you end up understanding them a little bit more and liking them for it. And so that's the story itself. And I feel like the battle system in Final Fantasy IX is the best because it simplifies it in a way that makes it accessible for everyone. It doesn't do any crazy thing like the freaking grid spear where you have to map out your own character in that who do you want this person to be? No, each character. This person is a summoner. This person is a white mage. This person is your black mage. Everybody has their job and they do them extremely well. And then with the abilities, you don't have to spend AP or anything to learn them. The abilities are more tied to the specific weapons, and once they master their weapon abilities, then they can move on to a more powerful. It's just very, very streamlined. You don't have to map out every single different choice that you want to make the most optimal build. You can just focus on making a character that you love as perfect as they can be just by buying the weapons in the weapon store. So for all those reasons, I think Final Fantasy IX is great, especially because of the story that's forefront. And I play it pretty much on a yearly basis, and it has aged very, very well.
I thought you were going to say weekly.
Oh, no. This game does not feel like it's a game stuck in the 1990s or early 2000s, whenever it was made. It definitely has aged pretty gracefully, and you can easily play it. Now, my second game is a Kingdom Hearts entry. And the specific one I am talking about is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which is essentially the Rogue One of Kingdom Hearts. So, not to confuse guys, but Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is a prequel, basically, of all of the Kingdom Hearts. And it involves 3 different characters. It does complicate the lore because it essentially goes back and tells the backstory of, okay, this is what you need to know what's going to happen in Kingdom Hearts 3 or Kingdom Hearts 2, like what's actually happening behind the scenes that you don't know about. But what I wasn't expecting is for this game to actually make sense. Unlike all of the other Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep actually makes sense story-wise. You are never confused about what is happening. Everything is just clear-cut. You get it. And what's really cool about it is that there's 3 different storylines. So in the game, you do have to play to complete the entire game, which is about 40 hours. You complete Ventus, Aqua, and Terra's storylines, each separate. Now, the only bad thing about this game is that there is some crossover in some of the scenes. So you're basically seeing same scenes in different perspectives. And by doing that, you're able to understand, okay, why did this person do that? And it's kind of like a puzzle. And by playing all 3, you're able to understand, oh, this is actually what was happening in the big picture. So I think it does it pretty well in that the pieces really come together in an easy manner and don't really have you it doesn't make you reach very far. There's no like plot holes essentially in it. And each of those characters, particularly Aqua, are very, very interesting and engaging characters that are really cool. And the battle system expands on the regular Kingdom Hearts formula of just hack and slash, basically, and this not so good magic system. It implements basically an additional layer of combat where they have unique combat abilities depending on what type of magics or what kind of abilities that you decide to choose for that character to have in their RPG tree. So you can kind of make somebody magic based, which is Aqua naturally, but you can choose to make Terra do that or Ventus. You can kind of make the characters what you want to be, but you can really customize them to be focused in, oh, I'm going to make this character focused on airborne combat. I'm going to make this character really good at a combo master. You can kind of mix and match and just play around to see how you can further, customize your character. So for those 2 reasons, those are my favorite RPGs.
Just to expand upon what you said, so we know my thoughts on Kingdom Hearts as far as story goes. I don't want to go into that. But this game, I think, has some things that was introduced for the first time in the franchise that I appreciated. One is the Dimension Link. I don't know if you brought that up.
I did not.
that is one of my favorite aspects of Kingdom Hearts, and this was the first game to do it. Dimension Link is essentially where you take the traits on of some of the companions you're with. So let's say you're in the Lilo and Stitch world. You'll get some of Stitch's powers. And so I love that aspect of this game. That was one thing that was introduced that I think was carry over to some of the other additions in the franchise. So this game, if Alfredo was going to pick a Kingdom Hearts game, this was the one where I'm like, yep, that makes sense. This is to me one of the top 2 of all the Kingdom Hearts games. And I don't really have a negative word to say about it because from a story perspective, while I can't say it makes sense,
It comes
it comes close. It comes close to making sense.
Wait, isn't Kingdom Hearts X the browser game the real first in the story where you learn about the war between?
Okay, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Kingdom Hearts X?
Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, it kind of explains the war as well. So you get
Birth
that
by Sleep the remake of X on the DS?
No,
Birth by Sleep is the one for PSP. It came out on PSP originally.
It's the remake of X on the PSP, which is the remake of X on the. Gotcha.
Sure. Just watch my 50-minute explanation on Kingdom Hearts. You'll be fine.
I don't think 50 minutes is enough. I think it's enough. You might need like 3 hours.
I'll have a PowerPoint. It'll be fine.
Oh, man. Well, a lot of Square love there. A lot of Square love. Which, I mean, that's, if you're thinking of RPGs, they are amongst the kings. So, makes sense.
In the past, and maybe not so recently, but
Hey, Final Fantasy VII Remake has something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully Final Fantasy 16.
Well, they can't make an open world, they can't make a platformer, as we've seen with Balan Wonderland, so.
Oh my God! Don't even bring up that game. I totally forgot that came out this year.
It was on sale for like $5.
Yes, it's not even worth that. Oh, I forgot about that game. Jeez. Oh man. All right, Cole. What are your favorite RPGs?
Is Bloodborne an RPG?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of cheap.
I feel like all the From Software games are RPGs, besides maybe Sekiro.
I feel like I don't think about that when I think about the kind of RPGs we're talking about, though, because then I feel like you could put Zelda in there, maybe. So
I wouldn't say Zelda's an RPG.
Yeah,
that's pushing it. But I do think Bloodborne is solidly an RPG.
Well, see, I mean, that's like one of my 3 favorite games of all time: Bloodborne, Rocket League, and GTA 5. But I'm not going to go that route because I feel like it doesn't to me feel like the kind of RPGs we're talking about. So, my honorable mentions are Super Mario RPG.
Hey,
that's a good one.
Square love. I love it.
I played this when it first came out, and I got this game not knowing it was an RPG. I didn't know what an RPG was when this came out. I was so young. I didn't understand what was happening. You couldn't jump in the game, and I was trying to like jump on the bad guys. I specifically remember like not being able to jump on the Goombas in that first little area. And then it was turn-based, and I hated it at first because think about where I was coming from.
Yeah,
playing Mario, and I couldn't attack or nothing, couldn't jump.
Cole, I had the same memory, but with Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Oh, really?
Which is the spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom got that for me. She's like, "Oh, Mario, he's gonna like that," and so she got it for me for Game Boy Advance, and I was taken aback that I could not jump on the Goombas. But I learned to slowly love that game. So Super Mario RPG is a definitive classic. But yeah, I had the same experience you did.
Yeah, if y'all, Taylor and Ben, if y'all played it, Alfredo, you said you had played it.
I have not.
This is worth playing. Like it's a really good game, and the story's good, and it's an adventure, and with Mario, and there's some weird little characters in it. It's awesome, and it's just a feel good RPG.
Yeah,
I don't. The mechanics are just classic turn based, but it's great.
I bought it for the SNES a couple years back when I was collecting video games for $50-ish, and now it's like $130. But I do argue that it's not super replayable. It's a little. It reminds me of like a lot of those old RPGs like Secret of Mana, which are just like impossible to get into.
Yeah.
Just because they're
Yeah.
just so slow and the battle systems are just it
Yeah.
takes
I
so
mean, I hadn't played
long.
it in a long. I mean,
It's
I
a,
hadn't
it,
played it in a long time, but
I'm not saying it's not like a really good game. I'd say it's better than any of any of Square Enix's other RPGs. I think it's better than most of Square's RPGs, but no
okay.
offense.
So then my number 2 is The Witcher 3.
Great game.
It's
Great game.
unbelievable, and I haven't even done. So I didn't even play. I played a little bit of Blood and Wine, but I want to wait till the next gen update, which they've delayed till next year to get back into it.
Oh, I
'Cause
thought it was out already.
Oh
no,
no.
they delayed it till
Oh,
next year.
dang.
That and Cyberpunk, but the game I played through the whole mainline story and did some side quests and didn't come close to 100% and all that stuff. But one thing I will say about this game, it was I couldn't believe. I mean, which this has been said so many times, like the side quests, how amazing they are. But so I went on one, and it was like this love story. So there was like this girl you go through. She's a ghost, and you go and like lead her back to her husband or her boyfriend or something. And
Oh
I
right.
can't remember exactly what the deal was, but you bring her back to this cabin, bring her back to her love. Quest is over. I go outside. I'm riding away back in the normal game world. You in most games you think quest is over, whatever. Like they go, nothing's gonna happen at this point. I heard a scream as I was riding away, so I turn around and go back, and she had murdered her husband that he'd been searching for her this whole time, and it happened off screen, and it happened as I was like, I would very easily could have missed this entire thing.
You don't have
And
to
I
turn back for that one.
did
You
you
can
know
you
you know
can
what I'm
miss
talking
that.
about?
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
miss
I know.
that. Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course,
Was it
yeah, of
because
course,
she
'cause I was
wanted him in a ghost form?
I can't remember exactly what happened, but I know it didn't happen on screen. Like, I'd already walked out. The mission was over. Like, I got my reward or whatever. I was just riding out, and I heard this faint scream. I said, "What was that?" Turned around, went back, and there was blood all over the place. She'd murdered him, and like, I just thought I was so impressed by that because I'd never really seen that before. Because usually it's all contained into the quest.
Yeah, that game that's a special game.
It is
For me, the moment where I knew it was one of my favorites was I was just free roaming and there's this tower that's in the swamp. And I was
that's
like,
where
that looks
that's
interesting.
mhm.
And I'm going in there and it's like I'm learning about all this stuff, but I have no idea what's going on per se. And so maybe like 2 hours later, it directs me to the same spot in the story. And I'm like, whoa. So I explored this place, went through this whole thing before, and it allowed me to do that. And we're going back to it in the story. So I'm getting more information on it. And there are literal dialogue cues that state that I've already been there. I'm like, this is impressive. And to be fair, I don't know how many games I've seen even do that, even since then. So it's a very, very, very special game. It's, very
Yeah,
special.
it is. Anyway, so that's my number 2. My number 1 is Final Fantasy X.
No, no, I
Look,
refuse.
Hey, more Square love. I
I'll
love
say,
it.
y'all. So, 2001, PlayStation 2. This was the next gen Final Fantasy game. The CG cutscenes were unbelievable. The soundtrack to this day is my favorite soundtrack in all of video games. Unbelievable. I think it's the best Final Fantasy soundtrack. Blitzball was incredible. I love the sphere grid. I think it was incredible. I loved it.
He's lying.
At the end of the day, I liked Final Fantasy X and 8. I'm like I'm almost like a hopeless romantic. I've always loved love stories and like romantic comedies and like Notebook, Titanic, and like I really liked like Titus Una and all this stuff and Squall Renoa. But anyway, it was my favorite, and I'm just gonna cut it right there, cut it short. But it's
Wait.
unbelievable.
You love love stories, but you
Mhm.
never played Final Fantasy 9?
Oh yeah, I like Final
That's the
Fantasy 9. I like
best
it.
love story of them all.
Look, I think
Uh,
that no, I didn't think that. But I played Final
Okay,
Fantasy
we gotta
9.
have a talk
Look,
later.
Final
Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
9.
8 has a better love story than 9, right?
Yeah, 8's
Well,
the best.
I'm
I
still
think, as
doing
far as
8.
that.
I'll let you know about that later.
Overall, my favorite RPG would be X, but 8 is the better love story, I think. But yeah, 9 is the best, has the best opening disc, in my opinion.
9 has
Like
the
the
best
best opening.
everything.
But yeah, so that's mine.
Okay, but nobody played that game. It's bad. Final Fantasy X, bad game. Nobody do it. You're welcome.
You are the minority on that because it is widely considered one of the best games.
I could have a 2-hour discussion telling you why this game is bad. Okay.
Hey, let's book it. We're gonna book.
We just might sometime.
I'll be the middleman. I'll be the middleman between that. That's gonna be good. We're gonna plan that. All right, perfect. And of course, Ben, take us home.
Well, there's really only one left that has not been taken that ranks in my top, and it's probably the one that I would consider my favorite, and in the running for my favorite game of all time.
Can we guess this? Will you give us a very subtle hint? I want to try to guess this.
Oh well,
yeah.
I've brought it up before.
I know. I feel like we'll be able to. One of us will
brought
be
it
able
up
to.
before.
Is it a mobile game?
Well, it's available for mobile.
Right.
Hey,
Is it a game you played on mobile?
I have played it on mobile, but it's not the one you're thinking of, Alfredo.
Okay.
It's not Torment. Torment is excellent though, and it's up there. I should have brought that one up. That one's excellent.
Is it South Park Fractured Butthole?
No, but that one's also great. Although I prefer the Stick of Truth. Same developer.
Me too. Stick of Truth.
Same developer as the Stick of Truth. Same developer
Is it
as
Pillars of Eternity?
New Vegas. It is not Pillars of Eternity. So it's two games actually. It's two games. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Okay.
We should have known.
2 was developed by Obsidian. 1 was developed by BioWare.
We were talking about this when you were gone too.
I thought about putting it in my top.
Huh?
I thought about putting that in my top 3. It just didn't age well for me. But those are incredible games.
Yeah, I'm waiting to play the remake. So
The remake's going to be excellent. I think this is another interesting one where there's like a glaring part of this game where that really doesn't click with me, and it's the combat. I mean, like I've never particularly liked the combat in this game. I kind of just do it to get through it, and then like focus on what's great about the game. But what's great about the game is so great that I always forget about that when I'm thinking back on these games, even though there's so much time, you spend so much time in combat. I wouldn't say the combat is like terrible per se. It's just hasn't aged particularly well. It's not terribly interesting. But what is so great about these games, starting with 1, is how well it captures the spirit, distills the spirit of Star Wars, in this bottle, and then carries it into a different era where it can replay some of the hits in some ways, but also carve out its own space, its own existence in the Star Wars mythos, separate from the movies and other things that have come before. The amount of bad Star Wars we've gotten over the years, especially since this game has come out, proves that it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to make great Star Wars. And this is truly great Star Wars. It also has one of the greatest twists in all of gaming.
Let me ask you this: is it worth playing if you know the twist? Because I know the twist, and I feel like it's going to ruin the whole experience for me.
No, it's still totally worth playing.
Because that sounds so incredible. That twist is. I wish I had experienced that.
I don't know it yet.
I'm not going to say it, but I felt sick when I read it because I was like, that would be incredible to experience in a game.
It's amazing. Awesome. It's amazing. It's like a BioShock moment. I mean, it's totally incredible. But aside from that, it is a BioWare RPG through and through. So everything that is great about Mass Effect's story, everything that is wonderful about the companions and these types of interactions that you have with your traveling mates, the different worlds that you get to go to that each house their own stories that are reflections of the locations themselves. It's all there. And it's all Star Wars. That's basically in a nutshell what's so great about the first game. And then the second game is like if your teacher was like, okay, Alfredo, you write the Why Star Wars is Great essay, and Taylor, you write the Why Star Wars is Terrible essay.
Can I trade?
and you guys like both, and you guys both bring in essays that belong to the same game franchise. That's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 this is why Star Wars is so great.
Oh,
And Knights of the Old Republic 2 this is why Star Wars is so terrible. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, and they're in this conversation. The stories are in this conversation. The characters are in this conversation with one another. The hero's journey versus not the hero's journey. I guess it's very difficult to describe 2 because 2 is trying to eschew all of the conventions or critique the conventions of traditional Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic. 2 is another one where it's like the game is fundamentally broken. It's another Obsidian game that they didn't have enough time to complete before it was out. But it's so much like New Vegas. It aims so high that even though they weren't able to quite get there, they still landed so much higher than their competition in what they produced. It's one of the most thought-provoking deconstructions of a thing that I truly love. You can't have a gut punch in something, like a vicious critique of something, unless you really love it, or you're really familiar with it, or you're really comfortable in it. And then to have that picked apart and deconstructed within itself, right? Because it's still a Star Wars game. That's a bizarre and wonderful experience. So I think these two games need to be played together. Knights of the Old Republic is excellent, and you could play Knights of the Old Republic on its own. You could not play Knights of the Old Republic 2 without Knights of the Old Republic. But I think if you really wanted an incredible holistic experience, you should play both games. And they are both available on mobile now.
Have they aged well?
I mean, it depends. Like I said, the combat, not really.
The combat was never good. That's the
But
thing.
it's turn-based, right?
It's
turn-based combat?
It's active with pause.
Okay.
It's like Baldur's
Like an
Gate
MMO,
and
right?
Planescape Torment and
I got ya.
and
Okay.
Fallout. Actually, no, Fallout is turn-based. Yeah, I think Fallout is turn-based.
It's like Pillars of Eternity.
Yes. Yeah. Those like
got ya.
the traditional BioWare model prior to Mass Effect.
Sorry, my dog.
Yeah, I would say like the visuals are just like right on the cusp where they're definitely dated, but they're not horrible. It's not like hard to look at. It's original Xbox era. But they actually, I think it is well suited to mobile, because if you're playing on a smaller screen, that stuff is less noticeable.
That was good.
It's one of the best RPGs ever to me, and I cannot wait to see what a reimagining of it is going to look like.
Yeah,
I think that I'm super anticipating it. I always respect it from the standpoint of we wouldn't have gotten Mass Effect without Knights of the Old Republic.
Yep.
And
can you imagine the people that missed the boat and they get to play it on the PS5 remake?
Oh, man. I'm so jealous.
I'm waiting.
I'm so jealous.
That's me and you, Alfredo.
Just
I'm
that
down.
twist in 4K 60.
Have you played it?
No,
No, really.
I've never really been the biggest Star Wars guy, so
Same.
like I don't.
You should definitely get to Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic too, then, Taylor.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. We got some great. I mean, we got Square got a lot of representation. Obsidian got it got a fair amount of representation, and obviously BioWare got a couple in. And even what is Nintendo's?
Super Mario RPG.
Well, also Pokemon Black and
fair.
White.
Oh yeah.
Got Pokemon in there. Stuck them in.
I mean, so we hit all of it. I mean, what would even be? I mean, I feel like we covered all the bases there.
Bethesda got no love.
Bethesda got no love.
Yeah.
They well
I
deserved.
thought
Sad.
for sure,
Deserving.
yeah, you
Fallout
would pick
New
that.
Vegas, was published by them, right?
I'm surprised no one dropped Skyrim in their top 3.
Skyrim is to me empty calories.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like.
I had a good time with it, but I don't have memories of it compared to like all the other. Even some of the games y'all mentioned, I'm like, I have memories of those compared to Skyrim. But we have some great games, and that's gonna also be our reminisce because we had to do a fair bit of reminiscing for that as well. So this has been the Dukes of Gaming podcast. Thank you for listening through our technical issues. I really appreciate it if you've been listening live or if you're listening down in the future. We appreciate any comment, any like, any review that we get. Leave a comment, leave a like. Even email us if you have any questions. Email us at therealdukesofgaming@gmail.com if you want to have your question read live on air. We are available every single week. We post between Monday and Wednesday, depending on busy and availability. We're coming at you live next week with some more hot takes. Hit the bell as well for notifications to know when we release our content. And make sure you start your read week with the Dukes of Gaming. And with all that being said, I bid thee farewell.